On March 23rd, 2014, Family Guy released perhaps its most controversial episode yet, as its lowest rated and most hated episode aired for the very first time. I'm not kidding when I say pretty much everyone hates this thing. First things first, I'll admit that this TV show actually has a lot of enjoyable episodes and moments. No one can deny the cultural impact Family Guy once had on society. I still see Peter Griffin memes like every day. Why do I see these all the time? But that's not to say that this wacky cartoon doesn't come with its fair share of controversy. You can avoid its ever-growing fandom, you can pretend its decline in quality doesn't exist, but every now and then, there comes a moment so bad, so horrendous, that it's impossible to forget about it. So today, I'll be taking a look at the most hated Family Guy episode of all time. I'd be pretty surprised to find anyone who actually likes this episode. I previously covered the episode that people cite as ruining the entire franchise, but while that episode is hated for changing integral parts of the show, this episode I'm covering today is hated for being, quote, maximized cringe, terrible/disturbing, and absolute unwatchable bullshit. These are real comments left by real people. So today, I'll be trusting those viewers by watching and over-explaining the most hated Family Guy episode in full to see if it's really that bad. Oh geez, wait. Peter does what with his son? Anyway, enough with the intro. Go grab your copy of Rayman 3 for the Nintendo GameCube, and let's jump into what some people call the most hated Family Guy episode of all time. This episode that everyone seems to hate so much is called Fresh Air. The title, obviously a pun, as we'll soon find out and learn to hate. Buckle up, this is gonna be a bumpy ride. Our story begins at the Griffin household. What even goes on here? Brian and Peter are watching TV when Chris shows up with his last remaining brain cell. Chris asks his dad if he wants to hang out, but since Peter is actually in the top 3 worst dads of all time conversation, he sadly declines, letting Chris know that he has to attend his insanity practice.
Pinwheels!
With all the stuff Peter's done over the years, I'm surprised it took 12 seasons for Peter to end up clinically insane. Chris gets sad because he really wants to hang out with his dad. Peter really doesn't want to do that though, so he lies to Chris in the most parent talking to their kid way possible.
If you leave me alone now, I'll give you $1 billion.
You've got a deal!
After Chris leaves, Brian chimes in saying that maybe Peter should be a little nicer to his kid. The two can maybe bond and find something they both love. Peter's not into it though, and probably just thinking about beer or something. That's what cartoon dads think about, right? That's like their only trait, that's what they do. And before we move any further, I should mention that Family Guy is very notorious with the cutaway gag. That's usually when they cut away to a separate joke somewhere else that's related to what's going on. It can be pretty difficult for me to explain cutaways and actually have them still make sense without yapping for 2 hours straight. So every time a cutaway pops up in this episode, I'll add a number to the counter on screen and vaguely describe them without proper context. If they're gonna make these things unbearably long, the least I can do is shorten them a bit. By the way, we're not even 2 minutes into this episode and there's already been 2 cutaways. One of a European dude with weird legs hanging on stuff, and one of Peter picking up a hitchhiker before viciously kicking him out of the vehicle. Later that night, when the family is eating dinner, Lois breaks the news to everyone that her father has broken his leg. We find out that he was walking up the wrong escalator and tripped. Very unfortunate. Someone get this man a chug jug. And so now Lois's dad is injured. Lois's mother can't take care of him because I guess she's out of town. Lois herself can't take care of him because she's getting a haircut.
I can't go. I've got to go get my hair very minutely changed.
Excuse me, what the actual
There's also a cutaway of Peter letting Lois know that he kissed another woman. I'm not kidding. Meg says that she can't take care of her grandfather either because last time she did, she beat him at checkers and he punched her in the face, which finally leaves Lois thinking about asking Chris, who oddly enough isn't eating dinner like everyone else. That's definitely not like him. There's also another cutaway of Peter checking up on a hairless clone of himself that he locked up inside a shed. I don't even have a joke for this one. What the f is going on? Lois checks up on Chris, who's of course drawing some doodles with Crayola crayons. Chris gets all sad because he wants to spend time with his dad, but Peter is too busy watching TV and dying on the stairs to do that. Lois tells Chris that she loves him with all of her heart and that his dad actually does too. She says that Peter just has trouble expressing his emotions.
Has trouble expressing his emotions.
I love Mike and Molly. I love Mike.
It's gotta really suck being related to Peter in any way at all. Lois's face there was so dead inside. Super relatable. Anyway, Lois mentions that Chris should spend time taking care of his grandfather, and Chris agrees because he's lonely and just wants to spend time with literally anyone. We later cut to the house of Carter Pewterschmidt, Chris's grandfather. This guy is really mean, he's really arrogant, and perhaps most of all, he's really, really rich. His leg is in a full cast, so it'll probably take a while to heal. On the very first interaction between these two, Mr. Pewterschmidt's complaining because due to his injury, he's now not able to get frisky in the sheets, which is when Chris does the seductive Riz stare like that one clip of Mr. Mime from the Pokemon movie. One wacky transition later, and we find out that Chris taught his grandpa how to, you know, I don't want to beat around the bush, but you know. And of course, the joke doesn't stop there, because then Carter says this.
Cool. Hey, next time I want to try it with my hand.
The next couple clips are Chris spending time with his grandfather, fortunately in a more lighthearted way from this point on. The two order a pizza and get all excited watching the delivery tracker. The delivery guy shows up, and Mr. Pewterschmidt, essentially being an old evil Mr. Beast, makes this dude retrieve the money out of a pile of mashed potatoes. Oh, and he's not allowed to use his hands.
I built a giant death trap.
Another day, Chris and his granddad start a band. There's also this third guy that I've never seen before, although he reminds me of Izzy Sparks from Guitar Hero 3, just with less aura. This is when we cut to another day, and we see Carter's leg is all better now. So I guess Chris spent a lot of time with his grandfather off screen. The way Pewterschmidt injured his leg, I would assume takes at least a couple months to heal properly. So has Chris just been chilling away from home for like half a year? And if that's the case, why couldn't Lois check up on her dad at least once? Was she busy every single day for the next 6 months? I honestly have no idea. Mr. Pewterschmidt wants to thank Chris for taking care of him during all that time. He offers to give him money because he's very rich, but Chris actually declines, saying that he doesn't need the money. He just enjoyed spending time with his grandpa. Ah, Chris, you're too pure for this world.
You're not going to take the money?
No, I don't want your money.
Someone who can't be bought with money. Every rich guy's worst nightmare. Well, that and the list. They hate them both equally. Probably. Walking into the home, Mr. Pewterschmidt announces to the rest of the family that Chris will now be the sole heir to his entire fortune. Chris Griffin, expert vapor, will now inherit $1 billion. Or something like that. I don't know how rich this guy actually is, but he's got a lot of money. The family freaks out a bit out of confusion. There's a quick bit where Peter goes to fight that hairless twin from earlier. Remember that? And after a gunshot goes off, the twin is the one who returns.
Hello, family.
Everyone here is now complaining. Pewterschmidt mentions that Chris should get the money because he's the only one who doesn't want the money. Knowing this, Lois tries to pull off some reverse psychology, but doesn't really work.
I don't want it either.
Good, because you're not getting it.
Brian mentions potentially donating the money to charity instead of just giving it to someone. Pewterschmidt asks him to name literally just one charity because he's a fraud. And Brian names the charity Poor Green Whale Guns Books. That sounds like a very fake charity. Shame on Brian for making that up. There's also a cutaway of a green whale holding a gun and a book, begging for donations. Is he actually a poor charity or just a Twitch streamer? You decide. Later that night, Peter is all angry that he's getting no money. He mentions that he's gonna start being really nice to Chris so that hopefully he can get some of the money. There's another cutaway of Peter not knowing where he is while carrying a handful of testicles. He calls this Alzheimer's disease. What are we doing here, man? No way I'm researching this for a video. The next day, Peter tries to get on Chris's good side. He straight up pulls the fellow kids meme and dresses up like his son. Chris doesn't really care though and disconnects from the lobby after just a couple seconds. A bit later, and Chris is now watching TV. There's another gag on the TV, this time of the Mission Impossible movie, but it's a director's cut version where the stools aren't edited out. This is funny because Tom Cruise is deadass only 3 apples tall. Look at this little guy. Peter, still trying to get on Chris's good side, shows up and tells Chris that he beheaded his school bully. What's with this episode and severed body parts? What are we doing?
That's not even him. That's the deaf kid.
Man, Peter can't even murder someone properly. He tried to get the bully, but he got the deaf kid. Guess you could say it wasn't a very sound decision. Later that night, Peter's at the bar with his boys. There's a cutaway of 2 dudes on their phones barely watching a movie. It's not that funny, to be honest. Peter explains his entire situation to Joe and Quagmire. He's visibly exhausted from running around trying to please Chris all the time. There's another cutaway of Peter making Chris's bed, and Meg walks in with a towel on.
Chris, our bath is ready.
I don't know what to do now.
Joe actually has a positive outlook on the whole scenario, saying congrats to Chris and the lucky person he ends up marrying. This actually gives Peter an idea, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say this. This might actually be Peter's worst idea literally ever. Peter goes back home, he wakes up Chris in the middle of the night, and I'm not kidding here, gets down on one knee and proposes to his son. Who on earth decided to write this into existence? Chris asks if that's even legal, which is when Peter mentions that it is in Vermont. I know this is silly, but of course I searched this up, and turns out marrying your own son is super legal in literally every single country in the world that has any marriage laws whatsoever. Because of course it is. Why on earth would you make this the focal point of your TV episode? Chris immediately catches on and realizes that his dad is only after his money. The money that he doesn't have yet, by the way. Mr. Pewterschmidt could definitely live for like another another 20 years. I'm not sure doing this now is optimal timing, not gonna lie. So yeah, Chris understands his dad's motive, but despite this, he says yes anyway because deep down, he just wants to spend time with his father. As ridiculously weird as this setup is, there is an actual sense of sympathy going on here. You see, Chris Griffin is a depressed kid who's all alone and just wants to bond with his dad. He's constantly searching for a meaningful connection with his role model, and despite being a horrible example, Peter means a lot to Chris. Chris still admires his father and all of his efforts in providing for his family. Anyway, so Peter and Chris are engaged now. The two drive off in the middle of the night, making their way to Vermont. There's a cutaway of Peter handing Lois divorce papers, but telling her it's a petition for women to wear less revealing clothing at PTA meetings. What is this episode even about anymore?
I don't know what normal is anymore.
The next day, and the boys are in Vermont now. There's a cutaway of a text conversation. This shot plays for 10 grueling seconds. Why does it last so long? Peter and Chris are now prepping their wedding. They first go to this kitchenware store where they check out some of the plates. And this part is almost just as weird as the whole proposal scene is. While they're shopping, some other dad and son walk by, and Peter turns around to look at the kid. This is so weird. Like, I know what they're trying to make fun of, but God, does it ever come across as like bottom of the barrel humor? This did not age well at all.
Holy wackazoli.
I don't even know what to say about that. This episode came out in 2014, so maybe it was funnier then? Get me out of this episode, dude. The two go to an Italian restaurant to book their post-wedding brunch. They then go to a dance studio to practice their wedding dance. They picked a really weird song for a wedding. I personally would have chosen a different one, but that's just me. Finally, after all that filler, Peter and Chris are about to get officially married. I honestly can't stress just how weird this is. And just in case you weren't thinking about the extremely weird, fully related age gap elephant in the room, Peter reminds everyone what's going on here when he says this line.
We're getting married on a Thursday. School, yuck.
Peter reads his vows, and it's very silly. Chris is about to read his vows now, but then the rest of the family shows up and puts a stop to the wedding. Lois says several people have called the police about a man marrying his son because what the hell is even going on? What are you doing? Lois explains what's going on to Chris, but Chris says that he already knows and that he's doing it just to spend time with his dad. Again, playing on that sympathy you might have for a lonely kid like Chris. This actually makes Peter feel like garbage since he realizes that he's been a horrible father. Yeah, man, you just figured that out, really? Peter then gets down on one knee again, but this time he asks Chris if he would like to be his son. Not sure that's how that works, but I'll take it, I guess. Chris accepts and everything is back to normal now, except not really. I think Peter and Lois are still divorced, actually. Whatever, doesn't matter. Who cares? The family heads back home, which is when the episode ends on yet another cutaway, when this time Peter and Chris are meeting each other years down the line as estranged lovers. It's mentioned that this is a Woody Allen reference because there's an emotional voiceover going on, and also don't ask what Woody Allen did in 1992. But don't worry about any cutaways for this episode though, because like most Family Guy episodes, none of that matters at all. And that was the most hated Family Guy episode ever, apparently. Was it really that bad? You're telling me there's an absurd amount of pointless cutaways, there's oddly forced sexual humor throughout the episode, and after all that, the big punchline at the end is, turns out marrying your own son is very bad? Yeah, man. I think I get why people hate this. Listen, to play devil's advocate, some of the cutaways did actually make me chuckle. Some of the sheer randomness can make me laugh from time to time. And at the end of the day, this isn't some super serious message that's trying to brainwash the youth or anything. It's an animated TV show about a horrible dad doing horrible things. It's supposed to be dark and satirical. Now, obviously, some people think they completely failed at doing that. Some parts drag out for way too long without any witty writing in any way. So in that case, the criticism is actually warranted. You also can't just make an episode about tricking your son into marrying you and not get a bit of pushback. It's just weird, dude. Like, there's gotta be more ideas than this. In my last Family Guy video, a lot of people seem to mix on what Family Guy even is nowadays. Some think it still holds up, while others think it got bad a while ago. But whichever side you're on, just know that this episode specifically is one of the stinkers. I know not everyone will agree with that, but come on, dude, okay? Let's not act like this is one of the best episodes or anything, okay? This is bottom tier, for sure. This episode's just not that good, and that's just how it be sometimes. It's really not that serious. What did you think of this episode? Do you hate it? Do you like it for some reason? What about the show in general? Do you think Family Guy actually pops off, or is it kind of stinky? Let me know. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Leave a like and comment. It helps the channel a bunch. You can also hype the video now, whatever that means. I honestly don't know. If you like my stuff and want to see more, I've got many other videos just like this this. You can also become a member of the channel, which will cost you $1, but gets you some custom emotes in the comments and gets your name here at the end of all my future videos. It also will eventually get you access to my members-only Discord server, whenever that opens up, and it'll also give you access to my full reactions to future movies and TV shows that I cover. That's all side content that I'm working really hard on releasing for you guys properly, so expect that soon. It's not out yet, but it will be soon. Thank you so much to all my current members. You guys are the best. Seriously, you guys have been around for a while, and I appreciate that. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid family man out of 5, and yeah, thanks for watching.
I don't know what normal is anymore.
Good, because you're not getting it.